Andrew is a lifelong paddling enthusiast and orca instructor with over 30 years of experience planning and leading canoe trips for school groups. Two of his favorite activities include fishing for monster pike out of a canoe and surfing big river waves in a playboat. Trained in outdoor recreation, teaching, and field geology, Andrew is presently the department head of Canadian World Studies and Outdoor Education at Port Perry High School in Ontario, Canada. So thank you, Andrew. I'll toss it over to you.
All right, thanks, Liz, and thanks to everyone, especially everyone at Get Kids Paddling. Wow, amazing presentations tonight, and I'm sitting there following everyone. I'm wondering, gee, what am I going to say here? Because I don't want to repeat too much. So, in retrospect and looking at the time, I figure I'm going to kind of do a redacted version of what I initially was going to say, and maybe touch on some slightly different points. So, my plan is to really less focus on our outdoor education program and maybe specifically look at the aspects of paddling that we include with that at the building that I work at. And then hopefully maybe stimulate some extra discussion at the end is really look at some of those challenges that we're seeing. My the younger staff that I work with like to say I'm that old, crusty, somewhat cynical guy, which is somewhat true. But I've been in the game long enough that I've seen outdoor ed and paddling change within the school system. And I'm hoping I can maybe pass some of those insights and some of those challenges that I see that are happening and some of the things that we might need to move towards to keep paddling programs running in the school. So, again, thanks to Liz, Phil, Doug, Al, and the presenters, Andrew, Jason, and Jeff. Awesome stuff. And yeah, so my name is Andrew Stuart, and I came into teaching a little bit later at 30 years old. Interestingly, like a number of people in the forum tonight, I was actually a field geologist, a mapper, and then got out of that and ended up moving into high school, where I was lucky enough to inherit a long-running outdoor education program at Port Perry High School in Port Perry, Ontario. And for those of you who don't know where Port Perry is, like some of the other schools we've been looking at coming out of Burlington and Pickering, Port Perry is about an hour northwest of Toronto, but it's a little unique in the sense that we're kind of at the gateway of traditional Ontario cottage country. So within an hour, hour and a half, you can be in Algonquin or Kawartha Highlands and a lot of the traditional areas. And the other thing that's a little different with Port Perry is that we tend to be in a pretty privileged country, cottage country town where, to be honest, the students that we get, they often come better equipped than us. Full gear, Gore-Tex, canoe packs. So the culture of the community is they're used to participating in outdoor activities. Lots of them have been on canoe trips before, so they're excited to become part of a paddling program. But by and large, we don't get too many kids that have never experienced the outdoors in a paddling setting. So what we try and do is provide legacy experiences for them that might be a little bit different than what they've experienced before in the past. And we're pretty fortunate in Port Perry. We are part of the Durham District School Board, and like a few other people have mentioned, the board really has been very supportive of paddling programs over the years and are doing some great things to help face some of the challenges that we're all experiencing. So just a few aspects of our program. Again, I was lucky enough to inherit it, and but the program was running for a good decade before me. So my job has been kind of to develop this program and keep it going. And I can honestly say it's getting progressively more difficult and at times really quite frustrating, because the whole system of how we have to do things and how we have to train and fund the program is quite a bit different. But we've been fortunate. So with a school of 800 students, we spread the opportunities for kids to go paddling over a number of different courses and programs. So we run what we call the School of Outdoor and Environmental Education, where we do a traditional outdoor education phys ed program in grade 11 and grade 12, but we also include physical geography, environmental geography, and environmental science as part of that package. And any student who takes any of those courses has the opportunity to participate in canoe trips and canoe training activities. So collectively, if you assume that every class is approximately 25 students, given that some are more, we have about 7 sections of those per year historically. So every year we service roughly 20% of the school enrollment per year. So chances are by the time a student graduates from Fort Perry High School, they've had the opportunity to go on at least 1 or 2 or perhaps even 3 canoe trips before they graduate. Not everyone's able to, but those opportunities are there. So the courses we do look at, environmental science again, geography for traditional application, but we also tap into the province of Ontario's specialist high skills major program. And we're part of the environmental high skills major program. So it's part of the courses that we present. Students graduate with a number of industry certifications, including several paddling certifications, wilderness first aid, bear wear, leave no trace, etc., with the idea that they're going to be graduating with a package of courses that gives them an extra stamp on their diploma and hopefully makes them more employable in fields related to the environment and to the outdoors. So the Schism program has been tremendously valuable to us. To be honest, we probably couldn't run the program without it at this point. And partially because, you know, our program has been around for a long time. We've had momentum. We actually have a lot of staff with a lot of certifications as well. We actually have a couple people on staff who are part of the ORCA board. We have 4 people who have paddling certifications of canoe tripping instructor 1 or higher. We have a SUP instructor trainer, and we have 5 different people with Voyageur instructor certifications for running the big canoes. And to be honest, I've kind of lost track of how many people have CT3 or CT2, because with the number of people training certifications, we try and drag people out on our trips as much as possible and grant them certifications in-house. So that helps a lot when it's time to kind of find staff and move along on trips. So we do have challenges, however, and I've kind of identified what I think are maybe some of the 6 biggest things that we have in order to maintain the paddling. Because I mean, the reality is, I mean, a lot of these courses are going to run anyway. Natural disasters geography, environmental geography, but teaching them from an outdoor ed perspective with paddling opportunities, I think it's important to stress that these are enrichment activities, and the staff who are running them really are volunteering their time to run them and taking on not only a lot of extra work, but potentially a lot of extra liability. So that's part of our challenges, that we have a board, we have administration and staff who actually wants to run those paddling opportunities. So one of the ideas, or one of the challenges we have, is the perception of what a school-based paddling program looks like. And it's neat. I really like what Jason and Jeff were talking about, that where they do water sampling in Killarney and look at the geology, etc., as part of the paddling program. We do the same thing in our grade 11 program. The program is focused on acquiring the skills of camping and canoeing and canoe tripping. And our grade 12 program, specifically, it's a double credit program. We focus on what it would be like to take those skills in a work environment. So to give you an idea, when I was a field geologist mapping in Northern Ontario and British Columbia, helicopter time was like $1,200 an hour. And both the Ontario and BC governments decided it was way cheaper to send their geologists out in a canoe for 3 weeks than to fly us around for a couple days in the helicopter. So I mean, if you work as a biologist or a geologist or a surveyor, in a lot of cases, those camping and canoeing skills are just something that you do um, to do your job. So we focus on the practical and professional applications of canoeing in a setting beyond high school and beyond recreation. So the other thing is costs and funding. It's expensive. For those of you who haven't run a high school canoe trip, it is very easy when you look at $2,000 for a bus to run for 2 or 3 hours for 25 people for 3 days, a $500 food bill. We're looking at a budget for 3 or 4 days, including supply teachers, of like $5,000-6,000 per trip. So even in a privileged community like Port Perry, a $200 canoe trip is often too much for kids to absorb. And that's in what is regarded in our board as the most privileged community and most privileged school within the board. The other thing is enrollment in infrastructure. Um, Schools are limited in the number of teachers that they can hire, and it's based on the number of kids that are enrolled in the school, and kids have prerequisites they need to take. And in a lot of cases, students just simply don't have room in grade 11 and grade 12 to fit in a course with paddling in it, especially when it comes down to double credits. So we've ran into situations where some of our courses have been pretty rough and pretty hard to manage. And we've run into courses or situations where we have a student who's looking at an engineering program or heavy science program. They're taking lots of math and science, and they're like, Mr. Stuart, we really want to take it, but we just don't have room. So that's a problem. And because our teachers as well who want to teach these courses have other teachables like French immersion or English or math, depending on who's in the building, our trained individuals are pulled in different areas and have to teach something else, and not outdoor education with paddling opportunities. And that's just one of the things that we look at and face every year. So one person is not enough. So my team at our school, we actually have 5 different people who could effectively take over and run the program at any one time, and or run all the trips on their own. And we have to do that to keep it going, because of people being pulled in different directions and contractual obligations with the board and administration, et cetera. Then there's the liability and safety protocols. I think those are really important, important for protection of the program and for the staff and the students. But wow, the packages, the steps that we have to take now are they're pretty time consuming. And our board, my packages that I submit to the board for approval are average 28 pages of paperwork. And we used to be approved at the principal level 15, 20 years ago. Now our stuff goes through the principal and to admin council, where it's essentially looked at by senior administration of the board, and then it comes back to us. So when we look at something for canoe tripping in September, looking at swim testing, looking at training, looking at getting our paperwork done, get it sent off the board and get it back, often our time frames are such that the kids have 24 hours to pay and get their forms back, and we can't actually run the trip because of time constraints. So that's an issue. And then, of course, in order to maintain the program, you need to have the staff that's trained. A lot of the times the training has to take place on the weekends in the summer. And it is a multi-year process. For those of you familiar with Paddle Canada and Orca, you don't get CT3 in one weekend with no experience. You need to have, your 500 kilometers. You need to have your moving water 1, your canoe, your Canadian canoe level 1, etc. So it's a multi-year process, and people have to expend that time and money. So one of the things we try and do is do the training for our staff in-house, with senior staff training them at no cost to those staff, if possible. And one of the great things, and Jared Ball is and Phil Mashashita is leading this right now, and they're both in the forum tonight, is providing board-based training for individuals wishing to pursue paddling programs, which is really awesome. And we need that, else paddling will die. And we are seeing lots of programs, unfortunately, fold. So that comes down in a lot of cases, if the board and senior administration feel as though the programs are worthwhile, then they'll keep rolling. But of course, senior administration, that changes, and often that changes on a year-to-year basis. And in many cases, we have to kind of continue pitching the program, explaining how the programs work, et cetera, to sustain those and allow those trips to run. So, I mean, Durham has been great. We've been lucky. My building, we've been lucky. We try and focus our attention at building positive momentum and visibility. So promoting your program, like the other presenters are saying, that's important. Having the community behind you, have them insisting that there'll be canoe trips and outdoor ed opportunities available. That's important. We like to maintain and offer an interdisciplinary program where it's not about just canoe trips or just phys ed. It's about environmental science. It's about geography. It's about fitness and healthy lifelong opportunities. We also try to provide opportunities for staff to become involved and become certified, as well as the public. Establish those community and organizational partners. Building the physical infrastructure is important. Way back, we were going to lose our canoes. We had to justify buying new canoes. And on a cost analysis basis, if you have a medium to large size program, it is actually in the long run considerably cheaper to own your own equipment rather than rent. So if you have that, that's fantastic. And nobody wants to see $80,000 of equipment not being used. So, and again, and finally, we try and keep the program fun. We try and maintain things to be as professional as possible and educationally robust. In other words, we're just not out there canoeing for the sake of a canoe trip. We're learning skills where outdoor professionals can take into a career and providing certifications. So that, interestingly, has actually been really pretty key. So I flew through that. My apologies, but thank you very much. And I'd be very happy to pass that back to Liz.